So what if I told you you don't lack the right skills in business, you just lack enough confidence? And while knowledge is power and skills are essential to success, there's an important precursor to attaining both, and that's confidence. Attaining confidence, it can be hacked just enough to give you an edge over your primitive mind that really is holding your confidence hostage with fears, insecurities, and self-doubt. So in this video, I'm going to break down 7 different strategies you can use to tame your primitive mind and get the confidence to achieve your goals faster. In fact, just giving this video a like and subscribing to this channel is statistically proven to increase your confidence by exactly 13.4%. How? Well, studies show that people who take action in one area of life are likely to take action in all areas of their life. So hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and you will immediately grow an inch taller, become more attractive to the opposite sex, and start walking around like this. You ready to get started? Let's dive in. So strategy number 1, develop more self-awareness. Self-awareness is a superpower in life. At my business, Dant, got a staff of about 100 people in our various different businesses around the world. And here's what I've found from hiring and coaching dozens of them over the years. Self-awareness, it's an acquired skill. Rarely have I employed someone and they just exhibited strong self-awareness out of the gate. And so the question is, what is it? Well, you know who you are, right? You know what you're great at and you know what you suck at. You recognize your own biases, and you understand what your true beliefs and guiding principles are, and you're brutally honest with yourself to recognize both where your abilities end and where your limitations begin. Now, strategy number 2 is do something courageous. Let's talk about a term I like to call confidence hacking. In order to get your big, important projects off the ground, you really need a certain level of confidence to begin with. When I first started my business, I didn't have any skills, and so I had very little confidence. Whatever confidence I did have was from really naivete and bravado, but it wasn't grounded in actual experience. To hack my confidence, I teamed up with more experienced and successful entrepreneurs than me. Now, it started off by working for them, and then it quickly turned into becoming partners with them. And when I launched my business here in North America with zero network, zero personal brand, it was daunting. I was in an entirely new continent on the other side of the world, but I could do it because something I'd done beforehand had helped me hack my confidence. And that was I stepped away from a very successful business and a life in Australia. This was in my early 30s, no less. And for a year, I traveled the world on a sabbatical. Of all courageous acts human beings perform every single day, this isn't even close to the top of the list. But in my case, there was still a lot on the line for me to abandon my life, my friends, family, and my whole identity in Australia in pursuit of these new horizons. Now, that one act of courage hacked my confidence to set up business and life in an entirely new country and ultimately redefine my identity. Which brings me to step 3, which is hijack a new identity. In Todd Herman's book, The Alter Ego Effect, he talks about how top performers often adopt an alter ego when they go out on stage or onto the sporting field or whatever their arena of expertise. And this alter ego allows them to essentially borrow the identity of someone or something that gives them the confidence to push past those fears, get outside their comfort zone, ultimately bring out the best in their innate qualities. Imagine you're afraid of picking up the phone and making a cold call to a prospect. Adopting an alter ego would mean mentally and emotionally, you step into the shoes of someone who would have supreme confidence in making that call. So imagine how Tony Robbins would pick up the phone and make that call. Say yes! Or Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. They would do it with supreme confidence and they'd bring this unwavering certainty to the person on the other end of the line. You too can be as powerful as them when you step into this alter ego of your heroes or your icons of whatever domain you're looking to master. A hack to do this is have a photo of them stuck on your computer monitor or maybe on the office wall. Or maybe you've even got a physical totem, hold it when you're ready to hack your identity. Which brings me to strategy 4, which is you've got to celebrate the little wins. If there's anything I've learned in business and life, it's that chasing the one big win rarely pays pays off. The truth is, big wins are just the culmination of a lot of little wins along the way. Now, you need to start getting great at celebrating these little wins. Now, you might be wondering, why does it matter? Well, the primary chemical in your brain and body that is driving confidence is called dopamine. So dopamine is most closely linked with this reward system in the brain, and it helps communicate messages of success and of liking something. So the more you release dopamine and link that chemical sensation to the thing you're working on, the better you're going to feel about it. In other words, the chemistry of confidence is really just the chemistry of dopamine. This is what I like to call the little wins. Maybe you had a great call today, or you just crushed that deadline, or you wrote a killer email, or maybe you closed a deal, or you just felt really productive. The trick is to celebrate it. It's literally chemically, emotionally wiring the feeling of confidence into your brain and your body. Okay, strategy 5, learn how to become more persuasive. Persuasion isn't easy to master, but when you do, you can overcome almost any barrier to getting someone to say yes to something. But it begs the question, right? How do you become more persuasive? Well, you can start by just forming better arguments. Look, constructing a good argument, it's a skill, and sadly, seems to be a lost art in today's very polarized and divisive world. In debates, there's something known as the straw man argument. A straw man argument means you refute a weak or maybe tangential point in someone's argument, which is kind of different from the actual argument they're trying to make. And the worst part is often people don't even recognize they're doing it. It's a cheap way to win an argument by attacking the straw man. Whereas there's another concept called a steel man argument, or steel manning someone's position. This is the opposite of a straw man argument or fallacy, and it's the practice of addressing the strongest form of the other person's argument, even if it's not necessarily the one they presented very well. So in other words, you're helping the other person create the strongest position possible. Now, why would you do that if you're in a debate? Well, even if the other person has some flawed assumptions or points that could easily be refuted, you ignore those in order to create the best position possible for their argument. And then you can counter it with better and more persuasive points. Doing this not only makes your reasoning better, it forces you to develop more persuasive arguments in general. Then you develop a crazy level of confidence in your ability to persuade. Okay, strategy number 6, think like a scientist. One of the most powerful positions to stand in when doing anything new in business or life is to adopt this mindset of doing research and development. In other words, treat what you're doing like an experiment. A scientist never goes into an experiment hoping for a particular outcome. That would create all sorts of biases in their approach, and potentially it would lead them to come to false conclusions. Whereas a true scientist forms a hypothesis from their observations and experiences, and then they look to test that hypothesis by collecting data, running experiments, and then using the scientific method to find the truth or find answers. If a scientist's experiment disproves their hypothesis, they think to themselves, woo, that's great. That's one less alternative I need to consider in discovering the truth. But the problem is, too often we go into a new project or we take on a new challenge with this mindset of this thing has got to work. And frankly, that's just enough to psych you out from actually doing the thing in the first place. So to get enough confidence to actually start the projects that really matter to you, you need to let go the idea it needs to work and just adopt this mindset of you're doing research and development. That way, if it doesn't work or if you fail, you can embrace the failure as learning and keep conducting more experiments until you find something that works. Okay, and finally, strategy number 7, environment dictates performance. Have you ever heard of that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Well, in my experience, I found that statement to be pretty accurate. The question is why? Well, what tends to happen is we normalize our habits, behaviors, and our routines to the people we surround ourselves with. So if you're part of a group of high-performing people that are all crushing it in business, they're winning deals, they're creating content, it's likely you're going to adopt the same habits and routines that they have as well. Too often, the problem I see is we try and fix our internal mindset in order to achieve this outer world success. I've watched some people spend their whole lives in this personal development world, and yet they're not actually achieving or doing anything meaningful in the real world. Right? So what's the antidote to this? Well, the antidote is put yourself into a high performance environment or group that becomes a force function for your growth. So as you grow, you put things out into the world, it builds your confidence. So does the validation from people in the real world. That external validation leads to more confidence, which ultimately makes you a weapon inside and outside that group. There you have it, 7 strategies you can use to get more confidence in business and life. Now, look, I get it. You might be saying, yeah, sounds good, Mike, but I don't have a high performance group to be a part of. Maybe I never studied how to think like a scientist. Look, I get it, right? All this confidence business isn't an overnight fix. It takes practice. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video. It takes some courage and some identity hijacking in order to see yourself as a confident person. But little steps forward will stack on top of one another until one day you'll wake up and recognize you've changed. You've started to operate differently without even recognizing it. Soon the results start to follow, and one day you realize you're a completely different person. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Remember to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and you will instantly and statistically become better looking, more charming, and radiate confidence. I'll see you in the next video, which you can watch by tapping the thumbnail here.